everybody, this is Diane. Hello and welcome to the Real Housewives of Alaska. And I am not just defined by what you see.
And this is Marnell, and yeah, I'm not just any one thing either.
All right.
Not just a podcaster.
Although, God, sometimes it feels that way, doesn't it?
Yeah.
And I mean, you and Steve are going to start your podcast, so where are you going to find the time to be anything other than a podcaster?
No, we joked. You and
Hey,
I joked
Steve.
last night. You and I joked last night that he and I should start
apparently Siri thinks I'm talking to her, but no, I was talking to Steve.
Well, what's that? What's that?
Are you hearing Siri at all?
No.
Oh, good, because she was talking to me. She thought I was talking to her. So, all right. So we are here, hey Steve, to talk about Derek Delgaudio's, and I hope I'm saying his name right, movie In and of Itself, which is on Hulu.
Yes.
And I want to say it was my friend Dorothea who recommended the movie, and I am so glad that she did.
I am too. This is not one that was at all on my radar. I have Hulu for a couple of series like Handmaid's Tale, but I'm not regularly on it, and I had seen nothing about this before. So, yeah, this, white noise triggered you. This movie triggered me.
Really?
Yeah, it did.
Really? Okay, that's really shocking, and I'm sure we'll get into it.
Oh, yeah.
I'm not going to say it triggered me. I was definitely bawling by the end of it. It was pretty amazing. And I'm going to go ahead and do my rating first, because I think my rating is probably higher than yours is, even though it sounds like yours is pretty high.
Okay.
And I have multiple ratings. So I gave it 5 Rulatistas out of 5, 5 Sons out of 5, 5 Wolves or Dogs out of 5, 5 Sailors out of 5.
Wow. Well, I wasn't too much further down the rating scale than you were. I gave it a 4.85 Illusions of Self.
It was that good.
It was that good.
And I also want to say I am rethinking my rating of White Noise, and I am sorry I didn't rate it a 5. Because it was that good.
Yeah, and I think it's one of those that it's a simmer for me. It's a slow burn, because it's kind of delved me back into that, and it's so currently relevant in the things that happen.
Yeah, me too.
Yeah.
I'm totally like doing a whole bunch of Q exploration. I finished Christian Picciolini's first book. I'm listening to his second book. Yeah, it's totally pushed me into a deep dive. And I was actually talking, I don't know if I told you this, but I got in touch with my father's third wife recently.
You did tell me this, yeah.
And I was talking with her about realizing at 50, that I am massively dealing with some trauma around my father's white supremacy. I mean, it made me angry, and I knew it made me angry, and I knew it was wrong. I didn't realize that I had all of this unexplored trauma around it until pretty recently.
Yeah, and I don't know, like, how to reconcile that, because it's not my lived experience, which, hey, we'll talk about. Because my dad, which was your stepdad, was, I wouldn't call him outright racist. He had racist thinking.
It sounds like he was pretty racist. It sounds like some of the things he said when he was hospitalized at the end of his life were still pretty awful.
Yeah, but I don't know. It's not like he wasn't overtly racist. Let's say that.
Okay, but it's the Steve Trevor argument again, and I said this when we reviewed White Noise and didn't elaborate, which is Steve Trevor was in World War I, and he was a good dude who was not racist and not a misogynist. So we can't continue to excuse these people because of the time that they were raised in.
Right. Right.
You
And
know,
I'm not,
Bernie
I'm,
Sanders is as old as our parents, and he's not a racist or a misogynist.
well, and I think one of the issues is my father lived in that like Fox News bubble where he never got a differing viewpoint. And we actually had he and I had a discussion. He and I and my stepmother had a discussion at one point around the Black Lives Matter stuff. And I put it, they were like, well, it was one of those where it was like they were saying, well, you know, if you just do what the police say, you know, and I was like, no, it's completely different. I was like, as a middle-aged, middle-class white woman, when I am pulled over by the police, I do not have a fear that they are going to shoot me. Like, so I'm more relaxed, you know, I'm less jumpy, I'm less, you know, nervous. And I was like, and of course now we've had the instances in the news where white people can be, or sorry, black people can be at home in their bed sleeping and still get shot by police, you know, like it doesn't even take them doing anything wrong, which is still no justification because the police are there to enforce the laws and not be judge, jury, and executioner. So, you know, a drunk driving should not be punishable by death, or, you know, breaking up a fight in your neighborhood should not be punishable by death. So it was like my dad and my stepmom had never gotten that whole, just because you haven't lived that doesn't mean it doesn't happen, you know? And they kind of understood after that conversation that I had with them. And it was, I mean, it was just like a sliver off of their myopic way of thinking in their middle-class white world. So
my stepmother told me that she had actually asked, so she was in and out of the marriage with my father for over 5 years.
Wow.
Yeah. Took her a long time to finally leave. And she said that she actually confronted him at one point and was like, what made you so hateful? Have you ever been hurt by a black person? Have you ever been hurt by a Jewish person? And not only was he not able to identify at any point, and of course we're totally not talking about Derek Delgado's movie, but he was never able to identify where he had been hurt by anyone of a different race or different religion. And he was not able to say why he was so hateful.
Yeah.
It was not even a part of his reality. But I did find out, oh my God, this is like TMI. But I did find out that he and his siblings and his mom were horribly beaten by my grandfather. Which, I mean, Christian Picciolini talks about potholes that divert people from normal development and turn them into these people that are seeking love and acceptance and approval wherever they can get it, even if it's from a white power group. And I was like, okay, that makes sense. There's the wound.
Yeah. Yeah.
It doesn't make it okay, and it doesn't make it okay that he didn't explore it, work on healing it, and work on being a better person. But I was like, okay, there's the wound.
Yeah. And I often wonder that we saw it in White Noise, the women that go along with misogyny, you know, and I often wonder what in their lives, you know, kind of triggered them down that path. That path.
I'm sure you've heard the expression internalized misogyny.
Yes.
And I mean, there is this whole concept in therapy of how you, in order to make yourself lovable to the person who is abusing you, you adopt the qualities that the abuser says you have and say, am I lovable? You know, I mean, you don't necessarily say it in these words, but since I am as you see me, am I lovable now?
Wow.
And so that's how I think of internalized misogyny, and that's how I think that women like Lauren Southern, for example, put up with the garbage that they get from people like Mike Cernovich and Gavin McInnes.
Yeah.
Because if they make themselves into that stereotype that those men want, are they lovable now?
See, and this is why we should have rated White Noise higher, is because we're still talking about it.
Exactly. So White Noise is a 5 unrepentant, now Australian white supremacists out of 5. All right, so I have some numbers. Did you give me your rating? Yeah, you gave us your rating of In and of Itself. I'm sorry, I totally let us down a rabbit hole. I have a few numbers. So it's an 8.3 on IMDb, 8.3 out of 10. This is very cool. It is 100% on the tomato meter on Rotten Tomatoes.
Wow.
It has a 96% audience score on Rotten Tomatoes.
Wow, that's amazing.
I was not able to find anything about budget or about viewership or anything like that. I mean, I think that's probably even harder to find about Hulu than it is to find about Netflix. But, at least I found a few things and I thought, wow, 100% on the tomato meter, that's impressive.
Yeah.
Because that's the critics.
Is it?
I'm pretty sure. Because I think the tomato meter is the critics and the audience score is the viewers.
Okay. Yeah. Okay.
So I actually had to look up kind of what the expression in and of itself means. And so it's like intrinsically, like something in and of itself is something that is intrinsically whatever it is, or the other definition was with respect to its inherent nature.
Huh.
So, and when you think about it, and when you think about the fact that Derek Delgaudio is trying to play with identity and with seeing people for who they really are, as opposed to being an unreliable narrator of who they are, that the title made sense to me.
Yeah, and I kept referring to it as in it of itself. It's in and of itself.
Yes.
I think I even tried to search for it on Hulu as in it. So in and of itself.
And that's an older expression. I don't know that it gets used a lot anymore.
I think I've probably used it. It probably in meetings or in if I'm teaching a course on something at work, doing a training or something, saying in and of itself. I think I've probably said it.
I've said it, but I can't say it's common. It's common to my usage. I mean, it's not an expression that I use on a regular basis.
Yeah.
All right. So our writer was Derek Delgaudio. I hope I'm saying his name right.
I think it's Delgaudio. Yes.
Or yeah. Delgaudio.
Delgaudio.
So he is a writer, performer, and musician. He actually co-founded a performance art collective called A Bandit. And he and the person that he co-founded the art collective with wrote a book called A Secret Has Two Faces. He is best known as a musician and has done like consulting work on different TV shows as I said musician, didn't I? I meant to say magician.
Okay, I was like,
sorry.
Wow, he was a musician too.
He is best known as a magician and has done consulting work as a magician. Okay. And he actually won an award from the Academy of Magical Arts Magician of the Year in 2011, 2012, and 2016. So the fact that he was winning awards back in 2011 tells me he's a little older than he looks.
How old do you think he is?
I'm going to say 40s.
Okay.
I was thinking 30s, but now I'm going to say 40s.
I tried to find his age because of the story he told about his mother. Mm-hmm. Because I just, being who I am, I have a hard time fathoming children being bullied for having a gay parent. And it's just because I wouldn't, it's my own lived experience. I wouldn't do it. And, I don't have that lived experience. So I've never experienced it. So I was like, I was really interested to be like, what era did he grow up in?
I don't think we see it so much now, but I think that we see it.
So I couldn't find
I think
his
we definitely
age.
saw it. Yeah, and I'm looking on his Wikipedia entry, which is fairly short, and I don't see an age for him.
It's speculated that he's between 30 and 35.
Okay, so, I was thinking just because of everything that he's done and the awards that he's won that he was a little older, but I definitely, looking at him, would put him in his 30s.
Yeah. Yeah. And the references to the Indigo Girls and the Pride flags.
Oh my God. So that was totally my generation.
Yeah. So I was like...
Oh, and I'm old enough that I could have a 30-year-old kid. Easily. That is depressing. Thank you. Thank you for that. So the other couple of things that I wanted to say about him is that he, in 2014, was the artist in residence for Walt Disney Imagineering. He wrote and co-starred in an off-Broadway play called Nothing to Hide. And he has a book coming out this March called A Moral Man, A True Story and Other Lies. Which may have to go on my Kindle. All right, our director. You recognized our director, right?
I did, yes.
So, Frank Oz, who is actually Frank Richard Osnosowitz. I hope I'm saying it right. He was born in 1944, so he's older than our mother. So I was like, he's Yoda. He's totally Yoda. What I didn't realize is that he had all these directing credits for stuff that was really familiar to me, like a bunch of Muppet stuff. The movie...
He was a puppeteer.
Right. The movie In and Out with Kevin Kline. The remake of Stepford Wives with Nicole
Matthew
Kidman.
Broderick.
No. Nicole Kidman.
Yeah, but
was Matthew Broderick in it too?
Yeah.
It's been a while since I've seen it.
He played the husband.
Ew. The Indian in the Cupboard, House Sitter, which was a Goldie Hawn movie, Dirty Rotten Scoundrels, which is one of the best movies of all times, Little Shop of Horrors, which is one of the best movies of all times, and Dark Crystal, which is one of the best movies of all times.
Okay, can I just say that I have never been a fan of Dark Crystal because
Really?
Yeah, it like I don't know, it weirded me out. Like the puppets weirded me out. And I like Secretive Nim. So like I'm on that weird scale, and Dark Crystal was just a little too much for me.
Wizard of Oz weirds me out, so there we are. I dated a guy who I called the Gelfling when I was in high school.
Oh my goodness.
I was like, dude, you are the Gelfling from Dark Crystal. Remember Rob Roy's?
Yes.
Yeah, the Gelfling.
Oh my goodness.
Yeah. Anyway, so yeah, Frank Oz was the director, which I thought was super cool.
Yeah.
And then I decided, and you were kind enough to go along with me, that Stephen Colbert is the Housewives' hero this week because he and his wife were the executive producers for this movie.
Yeah, which I found very surprising. And before I even knew that, when you suggested, I think you sent me the YouTube trailer or the IMDb for this movie. The first thing that I watched on YouTube after I watched the trailer was an interview with Stephen Colbert on his show. And so I was like, oh yeah, like Stephen Colbert has really high praise for it. Well, because like he's executive producer, but I mean, he would have been an executive producer if he wasn't very invested in the show.
Right. And so that's what I was thinking, is that he's the hero because he obviously saw the show and thought, oh my God, this needs to have broader distribution than what it's getting. Yeah. And I agree. He was obviously very invested, and I don't think you and I would have seen this show if it had not been for Stephen Colbert and his wife.
Right. I would have loved to have gone to the stage version of the show.
So I have to ask you, and this is totally bycatch, but I'm going to ask you right now so I don't forget. Would you have stood up when he asked you to identify as the the identity that you had chosen?
Oh, yeah.
Would you?
Yes.
Would you have volunteered to be the person who took the book? Not knowing what you were getting into.
Okay, yes, I would have, not knowing what I've gotten into, but I have mixed feelings. I don't know if I would have after I found out, just what a responsibility it was. I mean, it would have been a very unique experience. Only one person a show gets to have it. Right. And so that means only 552 people have had that experience out of the thousands that have seen the stage show. But yeah, that's just, I mean, that book was amazing. And
wouldn't you love to have a chance to look through that book?
Oh, I actually wrote in my notes, I was like, would you / could you go home and read the entire book before or after you
I'm not sure that you would have time.
Yeah, I was thinking that too, but also he kept calling him the Mr. Tomorrow, but I'm like, did he really do 552 shows straight? Was there
probably not. Maybe there were Sundays off, or maybe there were 2 shows on Saturday, or but
yeah. I can't imagine that there were 2 shows on Saturday because,
but you know what I mean.
Yeah. But I wonder if it was like a Thursday through Sunday type deal, and the guy who got it on Sunday had, Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday and most of Thursday to read the entire thing. I just think that would have been amazing. And I think I probably would have wrote my portion before I read everybody else's, because that's, it's kind of like me not listening to other people's podcasts about the thing that we're going to podcast, because I want my thoughts to be original to me, even if somebody else has had them. But I just don't want somebody else to implant something in my mind that's not my original thought about the material. So yeah, the book was cool.
Yeah, book was super cool. Okay, back to Colbert. So, I mean, most people probably know a fair amount about Stephen Colbert, so I'm not going to say tons about him. But he's the youngest of 11 kids, which I didn't realize.
I have heard that, and I think it's because
he's from a big Catholic family.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes. And I think he's talked about that quite a bit before, because, of course, before he had the Colbert Report on Comedy Central, or right around kind of the same time, I knew him from The Daily Show.
I did too. Yeah.
Yeah. I was not a fan of the Colbert Report.
Oh, really? I was.
Yeah, I watched it every once in a while, but
I can't say I watched it every night, but I was definitely a fan.
Oh, when Jon Stewart was on The Daily Show, I DVR'd it every night. I love Jon Stewart. I still love Trevor Noah. I catch the show every once in a while, but
it's not the same.
It's not the same. And Jon Stewart just rejoined Twitter the other day, and yeah, he needs to make a comeback. I miss Jon Stewart, but yeah, so I know Stephen Colbert mostly from The Daily Show, way back in the early 2000s.
Well, I would have to say, yeah, the bulk of my Colbert viewing was probably when I was living in Seward, so that was between 2001 and 2009.
Did you ever watch Strangers with Candy?
No.
Okay. Because that's what he was on before The Daily Show and The Colbert Report.
I know him from The Daily Show, and then I know him from The Colbert Report. And apparently he did some stuff with Dana Carvey before that. But, I've been kind of in and out of Saturday Night Live over the years. So, I knew Dana Carvey from Saturday Night Live and the Wayne's World movies, but that was about it.
Yeah.
Yeah, that was a grouchy dog. So you said it. He was a correspondent on the Daily Show. Then he got the Colbert Report. Now he's got the Late Show with Stephen. Holy crap! I can't talk tonight. He's got the Late Show with Stephen Colbert. As I said, he wrote for, and he also acted in the Dana Carvey Show, and he wrote for SNL. Which, by the way, if you haven't watched the cold open for this weekend's SNL, it is gold. They mock Marjorie Taylor Greene, and they mock O.J. Simpson for getting his first dose of vaccine.
Oh, I must have missed the cold open. I watched a bunch of the clips. So
okay, so you can watch it on Hulu, and you need to at least go watch the cold open because Kate McKinnon is gold, and mocking all of these ridiculous people is gold.
Yeah,
and I told Phil that if I was the nurse giving O.J. Simpson's shot, I would have hit bone and bet the needle. Because that son of a bitch should not be getting a shot when there are plenty of hardworking, honest, non-murdery people who have not been vaccinated.
You know, he was found not guilty, but I still hate the guy because of...
He was found not guilty in criminal court. He copped in civil court.
Yep. And the book, If I Did It.
Yes.
Which was basically a blueprint of the murder.
If you have not watched or not listened to Confronting OJ, which is Kim Goldman's podcast, you need to listen to it because it was so good.
Wow.
Yeah, it was phenomenal.
Add it to the list.
It's one that you need to put at the top of the list.
Oh.
Yeah, so...
Yeah, I don't have too much to say about Stephen Colbert because
he's gold. And of course, Correspondents' Dinner, which they say was the thing that like really made Trump inflamed and kind of set him on his path.
Oh, I forgot about that.
Yeah.
Because I know that Obama needled Trump really badly in that same Correspondents' Dinner. So.
Yeah, I'm pretty sure Colbert was the guest in that Correspondents' Dinner, wasn't he?
Yeah, I feel like, yeah.
So, I'm sorry if that's what set Trump on his path, but I will forgive both Obama and Colbert because I love Colbert.
Yeah, who could have predicted?
Right? Oh my God, who could have predicted? Okay, Housewives Weekly. So I don't have a ton about Derek Delgaudio and this movie, but NPR did a really, really great review. And they basically described him as an illusionist, mentalist, and storyteller, which I thought was a very interesting description. And they said this movie is about identity, personal pain, the things that make us who we are, and the stories other people tell themselves about us. And they called the movie an extraordinary gift, which I agree.
Yeah, I definitely second that motion.
So then most of the reviews that I found, so when I searched for news about this movie, what I found more than anything was reviews. Most of the reviews that I found were along those lines. Vulture.com did a not so nice review. They were like, basically it's a little bit of truth and a lot of nonsense, and any of the emotionality that you see is totally manipulation. Which actually offended me intensely.
Yeah. I mean, I could see how, the emotion on his part could be manipulative, but the emotions that you are feeling about what's going on are genuine. I just, that's weird.
Yeah, I don't know. I was offended by that review.
Yeah.
I don't have any more about Derek Delgaudio and this movie. I have a little bit about the insurrection. So Brian Sicknick, who is the Capitol Hill police officer who was beaten to death by the insurrectionists, will lie in honor in the Capitol Rotunda on Tuesday and Wednesday, and he's going to be interred at Arlington.
Oh, wow.
That's pretty goddamn empty when you got beat to death by a bunch of traitors. But, you know, I'm glad that we're honoring him.
Yeah. Did you see that a second Capitol Police officer committed suicide?
I did.
Yeah. That's just someday there will be movies, real life stories that are told. We'll know a little bit more of the background of these people, but I just...
Are you talking about the insurrectionists, or are you talking about the people who died?
Both.
So, you know, there have been some great clips, albeit relatively short, but great clips with people, with some of the different police officers who survived and what their experiences were. I think you've seen those. Yeah.
But I've actually watched 2 documentaries recently on Richard Jewell, who was the accused...
Oh, the bomber, the accused bomber at the Atlanta Olympics.
Yeah, and
it was not true that he was the bomber. He was actually not the bomber.
Right, but he had to live with that stigma his entire life. I mean, he had to live with it for I think it was almost a year. It was like 6 to 9 months after the bombing. He was the sole focus of the investigation, and you know, he couldn't get a job. He couldn't go out and shop for groceries. People would just beat him on the street.
They made a movie about him too, and Kathy Bates plays his mom.
Yes, that was one of the movies that I saw, and then there was another. I want to say dramatization, but you know, it was a real life. I think it was ripped from the book that he wrote. And I think the one that Kathy Bates was in was directed by Clint Eastwood.
We're not going to say anything about Clint Eastwood's Hard Right Turn.
Right? But I mean, I feel like that someday movies like that will be written about what happened here. You know?
Oh, I definitely think that, I mean, CNN's already done a documentary, which I would like to see. They did a documentary that they aired this weekend about QAnon that I would really like to see. I don't have CNN. Yeah, I definitely think you're right that we'll be seeing movies. I mean, this is going to be a formative event of our time.
Yes, of our nation.
Yes.
Yeah.
A little more about the insurrection. So DOJ has charged over 150 people as of a few days ago, and they have identified, quote, hundreds of people that they're investigating. At this point, they have 400 investigations opened, which again, you and I said last time, and I think we still agree, that's not nearly enough.
No. There were thousands of people there.
There were thousands of people there.
And, you know, one of the people who was arrested and charged made the comment, and I'm so crazy that these people are still speaking publicly. Do you not have lawyers? But that we weren't the ones that actually stormed the Capitol. Yes, we were in the crowd, but we didn't break windows, and we didn't beat people with flags and things like that. But you knew what you were doing. You knew what was going on was wrong. And we heard it time and time again at the BLM protesters, as if somebody incites something, turn around and walk away. You know, the minute it becomes violent, just remove yourself from the situation, because, you know, BLM was we are not the instigators of the violence. You know, we have no part in that. These are peaceful protests. You were going to the Capitol to take it over, and you were chanting, hang Mike Pence, hang Nancy Pelosi. You know, you were there. It counts. I'm sorry, it counts.
Did you hear about that woman who was arrested and charged because she said that she felt like they should drag Nancy Pelosi out and shoot her in the face?
Yes.
Ugh. I just don't understand.
I don't either. I did see where the QAnon shaman said that he would testify against Donald Trump. That's no surprise. Like,
really?
That guy in particular seems like more of an opportunist than anything else, because he like, they have pictures of him like for over a year at like basically every single protest that happened in this country, like BLM, defund police, QAnon, Trump's 2020. Like, he went to the opening of an envelope. So I don't know what this guy like does in his real life, but he is very well funded for his travel, because he just seemed like a big opportunist. Like maybe he wasn't a true believer in anything. He's got some questionable tattoos that, may think that he thinks one way rather than the other. But yeah, he's just an opportunist, and I could see him being like, yeah, I'll testify against anybody who gets me out of this.
What has our country become? And the fact that Lauren Boebert and Marjorie Taylor Greene still have voices on the Capitol.
Right? I actually want to say it was Stephen Colbert that said it, but maybe it's just because it's in my brain, because he's in my brain right now. But wondering about the age of our country, and that, we're a very young country, when it comes to like, England is an old country, Greece is an old country, we're a very young country. So like, are we in our terrible twos, or are we being a difficult teenager?
I am so freaking obsessed with Hamilton. I can't even tell you where we are, but we're somewhere a little bit beyond Hamilton.
So you were the lady that intergrouped the Hamilton lyrics with their experience of the show.
I totally was down with that. I was like, oh my God, that person is my soulmate.
You're like, I need to read that book now.
Right. The Hamilton lyrics, I need to read it. I am not throwing away my shot. Rise up! Okay, so a little bit of Housewives housekeeping. So I've been going on and on about this for days, but I have to say it on Housewives. Daniel Lombroso, who is the director of White Noise, not only liked the Housewives tweet about doing a review of his movie, he shared it, and then he messaged me back. I told him we were really flattered, and he messaged me back and said that he really liked the review, and I'm just gaga. I mean, it's probably gonna be our only brush with fame, but I'm so gratified and so appreciative, and it just made me feel really good.
Didn't TST start?
Yeah, TST actually, they thanked us, and they asked if they could share us in their media hub, and I needed to get a hold of them because I don't see us in their media hub.
Yeah.
But yeah, so our claims to fame are that TST like us and Daniel Lombroso likes us. And my friend who messaged me on Facebook today is listening to us, so it's all good.
It's kind of like my rating of The Stand on Biters. Like, it just keeps going up at a steady rate. Like Dogecoin. So
it's very funny. And like GameStop stock.
Oh, and that spikes. Like, I would love to take a spike like GameStop stock.
So funny that you should mention biters. I did want to say in Housewives Housekeeping that we just interviewed episode 4 of The Stand, so it's not too late for you to listen if you're not a biters listener and watch the CBS All Access reboot of The Stand, which is quite good. Although I am assured not as good as the 1994 OG version.
And the critics agree with me. Not that we listen to a lot of critics nowadays, except ourselves.
The critics do agree with you.
Yeah. But the 2020 version is getting better.
Yes, and I mean, I think that I'm going to be really happy with the 2020 version overall. It made me reread the book, which I'm super happy about. It made me take the plunge into the Bill Hodges trilogy, which I will talk a little bit about now because I might as well. I finished Finders Keepers last night, which is the second book in the trilogy, and started End of Watch, which is the third book, and I'm already heartbroken, and I'm like 3 chapters into it.
Oh, no.
Uh-huh. And then I have to force myself to take a Stephen King break because I have, go figure, a book about Eliza Hamilton to read. Actually, it's Eliza Schuyler, but it was Hamilton's wife. So.
And aren't you also reading a Christian Picciolini book?
I'm listening to that on Audible.
Okay.
So, but I am embarrassingly Hamilton obsessed, and what I keep saying to people is I always make it to the party, but I am always late to a good party. But man, if you haven't watched Hamilton and you like musical theater at all, you need to watch Hamilton on Disney Plus and then download and obsessively listen to the soundtrack and sing it in your car like you are on Broadway.
Oh, that's awesome.
Oh my God, it's so good.
I don't go anywhere in my car that takes that long, unfortunately.
Well, you're going to have to download it anyway, or you're going to have to at least watch it and decide that I'm crazy and that you're not going to waste any more of your time, or that you're going to, I mean, I don't know if you like musical theater, do you?
I do. Actually, I have an issue with the ones that sing all of the lines, like Sweeney Todd or Les Mis. But things like Chicago and Oklahoma and things, I love those.
So I would have to be very honest and say Phantom of the Opera was my first musical theater, and I still love it, although I did, and I haven't listened to every Andrew Lloyd Webber, but I would have to say Jesus Christ Superstar is probably one of my all-time favorites.
So I was a Cats girl.
Oh, really?
Yeah, and I refused to see the movie.
Oh, yeah, don't. I mean, I haven't watched it. I have no desire
my
to.
Brain.
So I don't know if you've ever listened to Chess. So Chess was written by Tim Rice, who co-wrote and worked with Andrew Lloyd Webber for many years. They are not working together anymore, but it was written by Tim Rice and the 2 guys from ABBA. And it's so good. And the movie One Night in Bangkok, which got quite a bit of popularity got a lot of radio play in the 80s, was from that musical. So, I mean, I loved that, but it's been a long time since I've listened to much musical theater, and, you know, I'm so glad that I finally listened to all of my friends who are giant Hamilton fans.
Yeah, I need to. It's one of those where it's like I have to be in the right mood, and I'm usually just in a let's watch a serial killer documentary mood.
Oh my God, did you get the serial killer thing I sent to you today?
I did. I need to send one back. Yeah, I have something that kind of relates. But yeah, and plus a lot of the shows that we normally watch week to week are coming back, like SWAT and Rookie, Big Sky. There is a new one with the guy who was in Serenity, the redhead guy.
Oh, I love him.
I'm gonna have to find it.
God, what's his name?
You will die laughing at this this show.
I'm so embarrassed that I can't remember his name because I can totally see his face and I just adore him.
And apparently I can't spell Serenity. Or IMDb doesn't classify it. Okay, here it is, 2005 Serenity. Alan.
Oh God, I'm not going to be able to say his name.
Yeah. He played Wash.
Yes. Yes.
So
and he was also amazing in Knight's Tale.
Oh, that's right. So he has a TV series called Resident Alien. I had never heard of it. It's on Sci-Fi. The other half was like giddy last night because he's like, "Oh my God, it's out, it's out." And I'm like, "What's out?" And he's like, "Resident Alien." And I'm like, What is that?" And he's like trying to describe it to me. And finally he just like throws the trailer up on the TV. And I was like, no, you never told me about that. I've never seen anything about that before now. So I got the pleasure of not having to wait for it. It's episode 1 is already episode 1 is already out.
Okay, you're going to have to send me the information about it because I love that actor.
So
he's Wash. I am a leaf on the wind.
It follows a crash-landed alien named Harry who takes on the identity of a small-town Colorado doctor and slowly begins to wrestle with the moral dilemma of his secret mission on Earth.
Oh my God, you had me at alien and Colorado doctor, and then you added in moral dilemma.
It's a dramedy, so it's not just a comedy.
And what is it on?
It's on Sci-Fi.
Oh, I don't know if I can get it. But I would pay for it. I would pay for it.
We'd all pay for Wash.
Yes.
I'll have to see if I can find it on some other sort of streaming service. Resident Alien. Because, like, when he said Resident Alien, I was like, okay, it's going to be about the immigration struggle or something. Nope. It's aliens. Actual aliens. Like, not of this Earth aliens.
Awesome.
Yeah.
All right. Should we talk about our summer, winter, and road construction?
Sure.
You had me go first last night, so I'm going to have you go first this time.
All right. So my summer was, this was very emotional for me. I know what card I would pick if it was there.
Are you willing to share it? Or
no,
okay, that's okay.
Not.
It's okay.
But,
it's okay that you don't.
My card does not define who I am, just like everybody else's card. So
damn, you made me think. I'm not sure that I know what my card would be, but go ahead. Anyway,
but you don't have
sorry.
to know what my card is to know, because we are the narrators of each other's stories based on what little we know about each other. We must fill in the blank pages. We are all writing one another's stories. So, I'm not just what I share on the podcast. There are many, many facets to this diamond. And
I'm going to tell the truth to everyone on the podcast. She is a diamond. You are. I love you. I was actually telling my friend who said she listened to our review of White Noise that you're my heart.
Aw, thank you. Ditto.
Aww.
I will tell you that, having described me as a diamond, if it gives you any hint to what my card would be, I would say I was a cubic zirconia.
I don't think that's true. But
if that gives you a little hint of what you think that what I think of my card would be that I would pick if it exists, because I did not hear it at all in the audience. But I have always sort of had the feeling that we all see everyone in our lives as the one thing, for the most part, I personally try not to see people as any just one thing. Like, my boss isn't just my boss. My boss is a strong woman. She's a newlywed. She is a dog lover. She is a CrossFit fanatic. She's many other things in her life than just the thing that I know her as. And so when you see a negative thing about somebody like O.J. Simpson, he's a dad, he's a former football star.
Oh, and those poor children. But yes.
I know. Yeah. But we are all just more than the one thing. And so you know, we we choose to present the thing that we are most of the time, but there's some times where we don't choose what people see us as, but just try to always remember that everyone is more than just the one thing that's presented to you. So I think that's why I have so much sympathy and so much empathy, and why I always give people the benefit of the doubt, which we talked about on White Noise, you know.
And you're much kinder than I am. You are much more likely.
Yeah, to give people the benefit of the doubt, and to always know that I don't hold people to my own standard of understanding and perspective and things like that. And if I could choose a second card, it would be that my card would be something about how I would like to be the empathy that I would like to see in the world. You know, I would like to be, you know, everyone's empath. So that's, like I said, this movie was very triggering for me. I did cry several times in this movie, and I
did too. And you are part of the Cold and Dead Inside Club, so you cried?
Yes.
Holy shit, man.
A couple of times. Yeah, and we'll talk about more of the parts in the movie that I cried about. So, but I absolutely loved the whole perspective of that we are the poor narrators of each other's stories. So just sort of open yourself up to that. So that was my summer.
So I don't know. I'm going to tell you what my summer is, but my summer is very short, and then I'm like, what the what? The letters. How did those letters get to people the people they were supposed to get to? And, like, some of them seemed like they were truly supposed to get to those people, and some of them seemed like they would be a little more
generic. So I have my theories about the illusions that we saw in the movie. And now, having said this, it's still magic. Even if it's explainable, it's still magic. The way that I would probably think that I would try to explain, and I don't have any details about how the show was put together, but a couple of the illusions that we saw. So the first one being the letters, which the letter that the woman was sobbing on stage, I did cry during that.
Yes, I did too. The woman whose dad had Parkinson's disease.
Yes. And so my only explanation, if there is a possible one that I, you know, having no background in magic could come up with, was if you had to pre-register for your tickets.
Oh, okay.
It is possible they could have, you know, because you can find out just about anything about people on social media nowadays. I mean, if you Googled my name, a lot of different things would come up, and you could probably actually get my actual street address, because there's things like the assessor's database out there that shows you the value of my house, you know? So I'm not encouraging anybody to do that. Please don't do that. But, you know, they could have gotten a hold of people's friends and family members via social media. You can find out if somebody has a strained relationship with a brother or sister or father, you know, friend, things like that.
Or you could listen to podcasts and find out if someone has a strained relationship with their father.
Right. And, you know, they did film people when they were picking out their cards.
They did. So, good point. Although that would be a really short time frame within which to put stuff together. But if they had research from when they registered for their tickets.
And that's how and he did have an audience member pick the card of the person that was chosen for the letters, but we saw all of the card tricks where he can make you pick any card that he wants to.
Okay, so I have a question for you that kind of goes back to the letters.
Mm-hmm.
Even if it was, okay, they filmed people when they were picking out their cards and they did all this background research and that was how they put it together, does it cheapen it?
No.
I don't think so either, because especially when he said to that woman and he said to a couple of other people, write them back.
Yep.
If you do nothing else, write them back. And I've gotten a couple of longhand letters from people recently, and I'm like, I need to sit down and write those people back. Because they're important to me, and they have acknowledged significant changes in my life, and I want to keep that connection open.
Yeah. Yeah, and no, that's why I said that even though it's illusion and it's explainable, it is still magic. I mean, you could say that therapy is illusion and manipulative and things like that, but it evokes an emotion in you, and that's real, and anything that goes forward after that, whether somebody mends their relationship with a strained family member, or reconnects with an old friend, or they learn things about themselves that other people saw in them, that, they were an inspiration, and they, that person looked up to them, and they're, they're so strong, and I acknowledge your struggle and things like that. That's real. So it doesn't matter how it came about. It did. So, it doesn't matter how it came into existence. It exists now.
I like that. I think that's good.
Yeah.
Okay. So what was your winter?
My winter was actually, I thought the beginning was very slow.
Oh my God, our winters were exactly the same.
Yes, it was a little, I felt in the
and
beginning
I was like,
it was a little
did I make another bad choice?
It was a little over dramatized.
Although I did like the Rulatista storyline.
I liked the Rulatista. I thought the origami ship in a bottle shadow show was a little unnecessary. Like, I kind of didn't resonate with me. I understand that it was in connection with the story of how do you say it?
Rulatista?
Rulatista, thank you. I have it written down, and I even looked up the spelling of it, and I have it written down, but I can't say it. So I understand it was in connection with that, but I didn't, the origami ship in a bottle shadow show didn't add anything for me. So I didn't think it was necessary.
Yeah, kind of the sailor imagery didn't do much for me, but yeah. I mean, in the massive scheme of the story,
right,
it was totally good.
Right. And so, all things considered, I am absolutely willing to forgive that 5 to 10 minute, sort of drag, over exaggerated dramatization of his story. I'm totally willing to overlook that. Because the rest, the before it and the rest of it was just so amazing. That's funny. We had the same bad.
It's really funny. Yeah, that was the only bad I could find, because I was like, I really loved this, but the beginning seemed a little slow, and I was like, oh God, did I do a bad thing again?
No, the trailer for it just seemed so interesting that I was just like, I was totally willing to hang in there, especially after the Rulatista, the story, because it was just such an interesting story, and plus the way that he started off, the monologue that started the show, what have we become is not, it's not enough to have a name, you know? What are you going to be? What are you? It's not enough to have a name. Yeah. So I was already intrigued, you know? So I didn't have a problem with it. But yeah, it was my only minor bad.
So what was your road construction?
Again with the deep thoughts, and so it's obviously a good road construction. Every secret has a unique weight to it. I love that line. I feel like that's something that I should like write down on a post-it note and like, you know, stick it somewhere I see every day. You know, it because it's true. You know, some secrets are small and they're easily carried, and some secrets are large and they weigh you down. But you know, they're still secrets, and we all keep them. And it just, I was absolutely blown away by so much of what went on in this. That, you know, I'm not a big fan of magic. I'm not a big fan of illusion. Like I said, I have explanations for a lot of things, that the illusions that went on, whether my explanations are true or not, I don't know. But again, it evoked so much emotion that it doesn't matter because it's real.
And again, I am so glad to hear you say that, because I too think regardless of how it evolved, it's real. Mm-hmm. And the experiences that each of those audience members had, and the tears that they had, and the emotions they had, regardless of what that really crappy review had to say, it was real. Those people had some life-changing experiences in that audience.
Yeah, definitely. And you know, I'm one of those people. I think I said on a previous podcast that I'm not a big gambler. I have been to Vegas. I've played slots. I've sat at the tables, things like that. I don't gamble to win money. I gamble for entertainment. And so at the very, very least, an audience member who didn't stand up and have their card named out to them, you know, somebody that wasn't that impressed by the illusionary, you still got your money's worth, you know? Yeah, I mean, it's so hard to say anything bad about this because it's amazing. I would have loved to have been at one of the live shows. I mean, just the emotion that you know came out of it from watching it on TV was amazing. I think I probably would have freaking lost it if I were in the audience.
Yeah.
So what was your road construction?
So my road construction was kind of along the same lines, but it was where he was naming the audience members, and he, you know, again, magic, illusion, mentalist, whatever, he was accurately able to name the audience members with their card, which was cool. And the profound emotional response that those people had was really cool. And then when he got to his mom,
mm-hmm.
I mean, just that was what did me in. I was like weeping.
You know, and I have to wonder if she came to every show.
That's interesting. I don't know. I got the feeling that they filmed more than one show.
Oh, they definitely did.
So I don't know.
We saw several Tomorrow Guys,
right,
and Mrs. Yesterdays.
Right. But when he was going through the audience naming off, you're the teacher, you're the mirror, you're the philosopher. I mean, you're
the
whatever.
Adonis.
Yeah. I could completely visualize being in that audience.
You know, and there's one audience member that sticks out to me so much, and I really, really am curious to know what he whispered into that woman's ear. He didn't say her card out loud. He whispered into her ear. You know, like, what was her card? Who was she?
Yeah, I don't know.
Yeah.
I mean, you didn't want to say what your card was, and I'm not even sure what my card would be. Maybe my card would be faithful wife, much to my chagrin. You know, because I was.
Yeah.
Maybe my card would be nurse, because that's been
your identity.
Yeah, that's been the bulk of my life. I don't know.
So, and I think it depends on how you picked your card, because we did see not all the audience members stood up, because he asked the audience members who took it seriously and picked a card that they think that people either see them as, or that they see themselves as, or that they would like to be seen as. You know, so if you pick the card that says I am a ninja, you don't have to stand up. Unless you're really a ninja, or you really want to be seen as a ninja, then absolutely stand up. But, you know, not everyone stood up. But I think it depends on how you would pick your card. Would you pick your card as how you see yourself, or how you think other people identify you, or how you would like to have people see you?
Okay, we're kind of into bycatch now, aren't we?
You're definitely into bycatch.
So, are you asking like a rhetorical, how would you pick your card, or are you asking me how I would pick my card?
Seriously, how? Because I would pick my card as how I see myself, and that's why I won't divulge which card I would pick if it exists.
Oh my god, I'm super sad to say I would probably pick my card based on how I think people see me.
And that's completely valid. So what card do you think, nurse? Feminist?
Angry? Definitely right now.
Yeah.
Nurse?
Sister?
Oh, you just made tears well up, but I think you're the only person who thinks of me that way.
Yeah, like I said, this was very triggering for me. True identity is what is true in one's own heart and is seen by others.
I'm pretty sure I wrote that down too. I wrote down so much.
Yeah.
Oh my gosh, there was one part where he was having people read from the book, and one of the Mr. Tomorrows wrote something like, "Everyone will be loved and no one will be judged."
I recognized that line.
You know, I'm not sure that he stole it from anything, but
well, and I think the last part has changed. Everyone will be loved and no one ... Like I recognize that part of it. Yeah, the people reading the book, and of course the one lady who said, you know, her card was she's an accountant, and of course I'm an accountant. She also wrote, "No one else has lived my experiences." And I mean, how many times have we talked about that, in that, you know, you and I try and empathize with people and put ourselves in their shoes, and we always half joke but more serious that we're middle-aged white women, you know, and we are trying to understand other people's perspective.
So this, guys.
Sorry,
wow.
I'm totally being inappropriate and like playing something on YouTube. We always try to empathize with other people's experiences, and we also, you know, I think we try to understand kind of what our lived experiences are too. I mean, I don't think we try to fool anybody or put anything over on anybody.
No. You know, I've put when you first asked me to start podcasting Biters with you to be even a fill-in co-host, and of course my joke always was
the co-host of Last Resort. And
now
now look, you're doing 2 podcasts and you're contemplating a third. Hi, Steve.
It's kind of hard because you are putting yourself out there, you know,
You're
only
and
putting.
I mean, there's some lots of times we're talking about a zombie show, but there are definitely times, like especially when we're doing this podcast, where we're talking about some pretty intense stuff. I mean, sorry, talking about your dad, talking about my dad, that's pretty intense stuff.
It is, and it is what I choose to put out there. And I'm okay with that. But, you know, there could be stuff out there that, you know, I don't want out there. But that comes along with putting yourself out there. So you take the good with the bad, and you just hope that everyone understands you are not one thing, you know. You're not the one good thing that you put out there, but you're also not the one bad thing that's out there.
No, it's so true. I was actually saying to someone just a couple of days ago via text that, you know, I'm good and I'm bad. And I'm trying to maximize the good and work on the bad.
Yeah.
Yeah. So one of the things that really got to me, and I think that when we got to the story about his dad piecing out when his mom was still pregnant, and then him at the age of 6 coming down and finding his mom on the couch with another woman, you know, I think we really realized pretty early that his wounds are parental wounds. But one of the things that really, really got to me about this movie, this performance, was that he seemed so sad. And he also showed an incredible amount of vulnerability, and I have a ton of respect for that.
Yeah, and so that's
kind of going back to the putting yourself out there thing.
Yeah, and that's why I think that the vulture piece was completely wrong in saying that it was manipulative. Like I said, I feel that it was like some of it was a little over dramatized. And he is an illusionist, so he is going to do whatever it needs to be done to complete the illusion, and part of that is going to be evoking feelings in you. So he actually brought someone down who was a reflection. And so it's that mirroring. It's like when you're attracted to somebody, you mirror their behavior, or when you're trying to manipulate somebody, you mirror their behavior. And so I think that was the where they said that, you know, his emotion. I think that I didn't read the article, but I think what they're getting at is the emotion that he showed was manipulative. And I don't think it was, because I don't think those lived experiences of his were, you know, I think those feelings were real. Now, having to do that 552 times on stage, you know, maybe there were some nights where he was more emotional than others, but it's still his real lived experience, and it still did something to him in his life that, you know, made him who he is today. And, you know, we are the total sum of our parts. So.
And I do hope, and I think that anybody who's taking the time to listen to this, I do hope, and I really sincerely believe that people understand that we are more than just that one thing. We're more than our career. We're more than the car that we drive. We're more than the bills that we owe, you know?
Yeah. Yeah, and I don't post a whole lot to social media, and the things that I do are usually not very personal. I'm one of those people that there's a great meme about how I relate to people, or I express myself through meme. And my therapist asks me how I feel about that, and I get my phone out and start looking for the meme. And the therapist is like, no. And so I do have a tendency to express myself through pictures of not me. You know, I'm not in the pictures. So most of the time I haven't taken the picture. It's a meme or, you know, something else. So...
Okay, that's intensely personal, and I'm kind of poking at the sore gum a little bit, but don't you feel like that's pretty revealing that you have to depersonalize yourself like that?
Yes. And I think that I am, because of my lived experience and my, past traumas, I am very good at compartmentalizing, which is a very handy trait when you were in the Cold and Dead Inside Club.
I think that's accurate, and I'm not judging. I think you're right. I think you're really good at compartmentalizing, because I know a lot more about you than most people do, and I know how much you juggle.
Mm-hmm.
And I think you're really good at being Marnell the accountant, and Marnell the diligent worker, and Marnell the mom dog, or the dog mom, and, you know...
Marnell the sister, and Marnell the podcaster. Yeah. Yep. So, yeah, like I just keep going back to, like, you were triggered by white noise, I was triggered about this. One of the stories, so I watched it twice. And I said it actually lost something on the rewatch. It wasn't quite as emotional for me on the rewatch because I knew what I was expecting. But upon the rewatch, the dog and wolf story actually kind of, I got more out of it than I did the first time. And it was when he was, looking into Sunset. Or the stage equivalent of Sunset. The old-timey wives' tale was the parents said, be home by the dog and wolf hour. And that was sunset, because if you are looking into the sun, you can't tell a dog from a wolf until it's too late, And so that's sort of the friend and foe type thing. If you're always looking into the light, you can't tell friend from foe. And I loved the thing that he said. If you're willing to turn your back on the sun, everything else is illuminated.
I missed that, and I really like that.
Yeah, because I'm like, where does he come up with this? Like, the things that he talked about in this, and the Buddhisms that he gave out were just chilling, So, yeah. Yeah, interesting. Six blind dudes and an elephant.
Right. I've heard that story so many times. So that was actually one of the other things that I was kind of like, okay, I probably didn't need that because I've heard that story so many times, but I understand the vehicle of perspective.
Mm-hmm. And I had never heard it before.
Oh, really?
Yeah. And what's funny is, I did, and I want to say that I didn't get it until then, or I got it early, but when the blind guy was like, it's 4 tree trunks, I was like, that's the elephant they've been talking about.
Right.
And because the first guy's like, it's a snake, and that's the trunk. And the other guy's like, no, it's a rope because it's frayed at the end. And that's the tail. And the other guy is like, no, it's a wall, and guy with the four tree trunks. I was like, oh, that's the elephant's legs. Okay, we're going to talk about the elephant now. And so I thought that it was a really interesting way to talk about and demonstrate, seeing things from the different perspectives. And we all could be overlooking the fact that because we only see that one portion, and we later all decide that collectively that this is one thing because of the one part that we see, we could be completely wrong. This could be some mythical creature that has a snake for a nose and a rope for a tail and tree trunks for legs and fans for ear, and I thought that was a really cool demonstration. And maybe we don't see magical creatures. Maybe we don't see magic because we've collectively decided, because of the way we see things, it doesn't exist.
I just loved this movie.
I did too. So would you like me to see if I can explain a few of the more magic tricks?
Yeah, totally.
So the cards and matching them to the people. My theory is that Derek either has a photographic or eidetic memory.
Oh.
And that being able to watch everyone choose their cards, he could match every card to a face in the audience because of a eidetic or photographic memory. So that is one possible, because he's a master of numerous different illusions, and he's been described as a mentalist. I think that's probably the manipulation that some people see in it, in that a lot of mentalists, like, a lot of times they're the palm reader or the crystal ball gazer of old, in that they are so well versed in being able to read people's body language and even things down to micro facial expressions that, you give away so much without even knowing it, and that's why you see, I forget the guy that used to have the television show where he would talking to the dead, something.
Oh God, I can totally visualize him, but I can't remember who he is.
Yes. And
he was really good at reading. I mean, sometimes it was obvious that he was manipulating, but he was also really good at reading people.
Right, because you can say general statements to an audience and say, okay, somebody has recently lost a woman in their life.
Right.
I'm feeling a wife, and if he didn't get if somebody didn't shift in their seat, he'd be like, okay, maybe it was a mother, a wife and mother. It was a mother. And it would evolve until he got somebody to respond without knowing. And he would focus in on that one person. And like I said, microfacial expressions and body language give away so much without you ever knowing that the people who are trained to read that can literally read a person by their expression. And so I kind of have a feeling that Derek is well versed in reading people, and that was part of the show. And there are, of course, many, many people out there who have been banned from Vegas because they are card counters, and having a photographic or eidetic memory would help with the card illusions. And then there were some practical illusions like the brick.
Right.
Somebody in the audience call out a street, and then somebody else call out a cross street. And then, of course, an hour later, this brick, people go out of the show and they go and they find the brick. Well, I mean, there's some stage assistant who was like, okay, got to get an Uber to 3rd and A, and they drop off a gold brick, because a gold brick looks like a gold brick looks like a gold brick. It's most likely not the same one that was on stage. And I actually kind of want to believe, because they were filming people at the intersection taking selfies with the brick. The first guys who found it were like, we're going to take it. So there are probably several gold bricks with the camera crew that's standing by, because people probably took the dang brick. And so they had to replace it with another one so that the rest of the audience members could find. So, I mean, that was a very good practical effect. I can't explain the disappearing brick underneath the House of Cards. That's sort of a David Copperfield, David Blaine, I'm going to make the USS John McCain disappear behind me, I can't really explain those sorts of illusions. But yeah, I think he is a very, very skilled mentalist and illusionist. But like I said, it doesn't matter, And
I may have already said it. I'm not sure I said it exactly like this, but I loved the combination of like the magic tricks and the illusions and the vulnerability and the storytelling and the exploration of identity. I thought it was perfectly done. Yes.
And when listening to him, I watched an interview, of course, with Colbert, and then I watched an interview that actually Chris Hayes did with Derek and Frank Oz, and they were talking about how Derek pitched the show to Frank, and Frank was like, okay, I don't want to just direct. I want to be involved in the development of the storytelling of the show. Because he's like, okay, you have an arm and you have a leg and there's a head over there. And he's like, none of it is in the form it should be. He's like, you have all of the elements, but here's how you need to lay it out. And it was so, so well done that I try to imagine the pitch for it, because this had to build up over time. That book started at show 1. I would imagine that book started at show 1.
I agree. Yeah.
What did they do at show 1 when he couldn't present the book, And,
it's like any podcast that we do. It has a general shape, and it changes a little bit depending on what we're reviewing and what we're talking about and what rabbit holes we fall down. And
there was also, I have a curiosity too of like, they said there were well over 1,000 cards you could choose from. And I liked the beginning when they said that some people get to choose from the cards. Some people choose the card that they want.
And some choose the cards that are left.
And some choose the cards that are left. And then he also said, and they showed a few people getting handed cards.
I kind of missed that too. I really need to go back and watch this again.
And it seemed more like somebody's friend picked the card out for their friend. It wasn't like a stage assistant picking a card for somebody. It was like, oh, this is totally you, But again, that was a card somebody else chose for that person. That's how that person identified their friend or their boyfriend or whatever. And it was the card that they were handed. And so I wondered how they came up with the thousands of cards, because they had cards in there that was like, I'm a ninja.
I'm an ophthalmologist.
I'm a beekeeper, like,
right.
Why did they have all of these cards? And then like the card that I think that I should have wasn't in there. And it seems like such an obvious card.
Or it might have been in there and it just didn't get talked about.
Yeah. So I have, and so one of the illusions that I was, I think, most impressed with And that could possibly be explained because of misdirection, was the end when the holes in the wall, 4 of them fell away as pictures.
Right at the very end when
Yes.
he pretended to shoot himself.
Yes.
Or he pretended to shoot the gun.
We had seen him reaching into these little cubbies in the wall behind him, putting things in and taking them out. And then at the end, they fall away like they were paper. And I can explain that with stage management and misdirection. When the audience was focused on him, telling everyone what their cards were, and the lights were dimmed in different places.
Oh, okay. Yeah, I can see that.
Some of the boards were.
You can see that people
place.
could have potentially been scrambling across the stage in the background doing things.
Yes.
Sure. Yes.
But it was still a very, very impressive trick, basically. So, things are explainable, but that doesn't mean they're any less amazing. Like if you explain his card tricks as card counting and memorization and things like that, it doesn't make it any less amazing.
Right.
If his stories, if the emotion in his stories evoked emotion in you, that doesn't invalidate the emotion you felt. Just because you were manipulated doesn't mean, it's any less emotion. Yeah, I could go on and on about this movie. This is so amazing. I loved it.
I'm so glad, because I have not done a great job choosing recently. And I loved it too.
Yeah. So do you have any final things to say about it?
I really like the line about where he was talking about wolves and dogs, and we're both dog lovers. We get it, but where he said dogs like to please people and we're not about that.
Yeah.
When he was talking about wolves versus dogs.
And he said he still feels that there is a lot of wolf in him.
Yes.
And that's very telling of him, and that he sees himself more as foe than friend. Yeah, no, it was pretty. I felt like the genuine emotion that he had when he was talking about his moms, when he saw his mom in the audience, and then the way that he was crying at the end, I thought he has got some wounds too. Yeah. Yeah, definitely agreed. If you've gotten to this point in the podcast and you have not watched the movie, I absolutely recommend you go watch the movie. Yeah, this was right up there with Hail Satan.
Yeah, I agree.
And for me, it was a lot more emotional. So.
Yeah, I loved Hail Satan, and I loved it because it was transgressive and it made me uncomfortable. But I would agree. I think this one, there was a lot more general emotion to it.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, I don't know where we're podcasting next.
It's your turn to pick, isn't it?
It is. It is. You picked this one. I may make you watch Assassination Nation.
I would actually be okay with that. It would be an excuse to watch it. It would make me have some more liking for Odessa Young.
Yeah, so if for some reason you listen to The Real Housewives of Alaska and you do not listen to Biters, we are podcasting the 2020 reboot to The Stand, and our featured cast member last time was Odessa Young, and one of her movies looked so interesting to me that I actually bought it off, or I rented it off of Amazon Prime before we even started podcasting. So we talk a good game about it goes on the list, but I actually spent money to put it on the list before we podcasted about her. And the movie was called Assassination Nation. And the way that I described it after seeing the trailer was that it was like the movie Heathers and the movie Purge, if they were both in the same universe, and it was a play on the Salem witch trials. So after a malicious data hack exposes the secrets of a perpetually American town of Salem, chaos descends and 4 girls must fight to survive while coping with the hack themselves. It was a very, very good movie. I love it. I absolutely recommend anyone see it, whether we podcast about it or not.
You know, again, I'm open to the idea of podcasting that movie.
All right.
It's totally like not a typical Housewives movie, but you know, that's one of the things that I really love about this podcast is that I feel like we can do just about anything.
I was going to say that actually the subject matter is right up our alley. And it has 15,555 reviews on IMDb, and it only gets a 5.9. So screw the critics. No one's opinion matters but mine.
Well, we said screw the critics about White Noise too, and I think legitimately so, because as you said, we're still talking about it.
Yeah. And I think we will continue to talk about it. I mean, the really, really good ones, Hail Satan, White Noise, you know, we will probably continue to talk about this movie too. It just, you know, when something hits just right.
Yeah.
So, yeah. So do you have any last words for us?
I don't. I think that, you know, again, I just really like this movie. I'm so grateful to Dorothea, who I believe is my friend who recommended it. Yeah, it was very much worth watching.
Yeah. So I have been frantically searching for a tweet that was shared by Karen Kilgariff of My Favorite Murder. And it's a picture of a piece of paper that has a quote on it by Jeremy Goldberg. And she says, "My therapist will sometime dig into her magic filing cabinet and find a copy of an article or a book chapter that is relevant to our conversation. Today she handed me this and we laughed until my time was up." And the paper says, "Courage is knowing that it might hurt and doing it anyway. Stupidity is the same, and that's why life is hard." So I think if there is any great quote to end on, it would be that.
Right. And I kind of laughed over you. So would you please say that one more time? Because that cracked me up.
Courage is knowing that it may hurt and doing it anyway. Stupidity is the same. And that's why life is hard.
I love that.
So, yes, I loved this movie. I'm so glad we watched it. Thank you. My sister.
Yes. All right. Well, you watch out for those weirdos.
We are the weirdos, mister.
All right.
Have a great week, everybody.
Have a great week.
Bye.
Bye.
Hope you realize, take your pride.